Oh, that scene when he's like, oh, this is not a proposal. And she's like, no, that's what Eris is for. And he's like, what was that?
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God.
I know.
We're about
I was
to
like,
get
shit,
it.
I know where this is going. And I was like, I don't want it. Don't hurt my baby Cassian.
And welcome back to another episode of Romancing the Monsters. I'm Em.
Hi, I'm S.
I'm Seff.
Welcome back to the second part of our A Court of Silver Flames episode by Sarah J. Maas. If you missed the first episode, go listen to that one before listening to this one, because it won't make much sense if you don't.
Unless you wanted to know our opinions on part 3 and 4.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously. But, so this is, as Seff said, it's going to focus on parts 3 and 4. So if you want to know about parts 1 and 2, you know where to go. Let's go.
All right.
Part 3. Valkyrie. What happens?
Basically, Nesta returns from her trek with Cassian in the mountains, and now she's able to fight with a sword. Well, train with a sword, actually. And she still very much isn't ready to face what happened before she went to the mountain. And that is, you know, what she said to Feyre and Amren and all of that. So she is slowly accepting her traumas, but she knows what she's ready for and what she isn't ready for. And part of the Valkyrie training is, yes, mind stealing, but also cutting a ribbon, which basically means that you've reached the end of your training, if you can cut it. And basically Gwen had brought it, and, you know, they were ready to try that out, but obviously none of them had cut the ribbon yet because it wasn't time, because they weren't done their training. And Nesta decides to keep at it at her own personal training, which is going up and down the stairs, because she wants to be able to reach the bottom of the stairs, and actually appreciate it this time, but she hasn't been able to since her bout of anger. What else happens? Oh, yes. And also Gwen, being a priestess, they have a lot of religious ceremonies and services, and Nesta, we also discover, is a lover of music and singing. Well, not personally her own singing. I don't remember if she sings. I don't think she does. She just appreciates good music. And she asks Gwen if she can be a part of the services and just come and listen, because we find out at that point that one of the reasons why she kept going to bars and taverns and all of those places in the city was because she enjoyed the music and, like, what it did for her at that point. So she goes to a service, and then as she's literally, you know, enjoying this music, she gets into a trance of sorts, and the harp kind of calls to her, and she, not on purpose, kind of wakes it up. That was so scary. I'm not even gonna lie. I was like, what the hell is going on? And then she finds out it's actually under the prison, under that mountain, you know, where the bone carver was at one point, and where a lot of criminals and gods and creatures that Cassian had put away, they also were there as well. And then so they decide to go to the prison to get the harp, because they still want to have as many, I guess, parts of the Dread Trove, because they also know Briolin, the old crone queen, is coming to get that as well. So they go to the prison, and it literally sounds so scary, not even gonna lie. I felt like I was gonna die, because, you know, I was there. And anyways, she knows where to go, and she goes to a place where even Cassian didn't know existed. And then she goes there, basically, and she hears the voices and sees visions of people trapped in the walls. And this is from the person who had used the harp before her. And she yells at the harp to release her, and it releases her, but it also releases a monster that Cassian had put away years and years ago. Lanthus, or Lanthis, or whatever the heck you say his name.
Yeah, okay, so this brings me to another small, itty-bitty critique of this book.
Let's hear it.
Which is the fact that I wish we had explored places that we haven't already been.
Oh, okay.
The fact that we went to the prison, I was like, we've already been here, you know? Like, it was kind of like a do-over, or like a, you know, Akamath take two type thing.
Okay, I could see that.
Like, even the scene in itself was kind of similar as well. So, anyway, I was just like, I wish we had seen more of other places in this world that we haven't been with Farah and Reese before. But that was it.
But, like, the swamp thing was new.
Well, I mean, kind of, but it was still close to Under the Mountain. I was like, why can't we go to, like, a place in the day court, or, like, you know what I mean? Like,
okay, you meant, like, going to different courts. Okay, I get that. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, exploring different places. Like, why could the harp not be in the day court, or the dawn court? Anywhere.
That's true.
Literally anywhere.
That's true. And I think that's a valid critique to have.
Yeah, there's not that many different settings in this book, and it felt kind of stifling at times. But at the same time, I'm like, that also kind of makes sense because Nesta herself is being confined. So the feeling of being stifled in this story makes sense. Yeah. But I kind of was hoping to see more of the world.
No, and I think that's a valid critique because, like you said, the Dawn Court I think would be cool to see, or even like the Day Court as well. Like, I mean, obviously we've experienced like the Summer Court, but that's literally.
I think the meeting with the High Lords was in the Dawn Court, right?
Wasn't it the Winter Court?
Or was it the Day Court?
Is there a Winter Court?
Wait, yes, there is a Winter Court.
Yeah, the Winter Court with Callias and Vivian. Who are also pregnant, by the way, but we don't find out until later, but they're pregnant!
We find out in this part. I was like, oh my god, I'm more excited for this baby.
They were so cute.
I want their story so bad because he was stuck under the mountain for 50 years and she, as his mate, was in his court and like they couldn't be together and like she didn't even know if he was still alive and like the pining and like I'm pretty sure they didn't even know they were mates at that point or something like that. Anyway, there was a lot of pining going on and I want it.
Yeah.
I want it.
I would have wanted it too. Did you have a question? No, right?
Yeah, my question was, how did you feel about the whole prison scene with Lanthus or whatever his name is?
It was hot. I'm not even gonna lie.
Wait,
excuse me?
Wait, what was hot?
The vision that he gave her. I was like, damn!
Oh, yeah.
That was so hot!
He was literally fucking her in that vision. I was like, okay, Lanthus.
Yeah, man. And I love how Nesta.
And she was tempted.
Yeah, she was tempted, but I love how in her trance, she's like, this man can't be better than Cassian. And like, that's what kind of wakes her up and is like, and then she starts fighting him.
Oh, that reminds me. We never find out what that fourth object is.
Right. So basically, there might be, or there probably is, a fourth dread trove. But literally it's been wiped away from everyone's memories and they only remember that there might be a fourth as soon as it's mentioned. Even Reese forgot that there might have been a fourth.
Do you have a theory on that?
Not particularly. I honestly...
Could it be one of the blades that she created?
But it would have been created before her. So, I don't know.
I had forgotten that until just now when you mentioned the visions.
Yeah.
Interesting. So we still don't know what that is.
Right, yeah, because they did mention, the fourth, it was shrouded. It was something made of bone. And, like, it was shrouded in darkness, and that was the fourth dread trove, but we obviously don't know what it is. But that was the first time we see it. And then afterwards, once they go back to the inner circle, Nesta mentions it, that there's the fourth one, I think. And that's the only time that they kind of really talk about it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Anyway, you keep evading my question, and you just said it was
I
hot.
mean,
So
I liked it. I thought it was fine. Like, that was when she decided to use the harp, and we kind of got to see the power of the harp in, like, a small scale.
Yeah.
I like that it was, like, them working together to kind of fight Lanthus. But I also ultimately love that it was her that cut him down and, like, literally cut him into pieces with her sword.
What did you think about her leaving and then coming back?
Well, because she knew she couldn't fight him.
I mean, it made sense. Like, she doesn't believe in herself. And he told her, leave. It made sense to me, and then she comes back, and I kind of think that the Dread Trove could be from the Throne of Glass world.
Yeah, I think so too.
I don't know why I got that feeling, but I feel like there was one line at one point that made me think, feels like it could come from that world.
Yeah. No, and I think what further cements that theory is that around the harp and, like, where Nesta had to go to get the harp, there were symbols that Nesta and Cassian couldn't read and they couldn't decipher because they didn't know what it was. And methinks they were word symbols. As soon as I read that, I was like, she's so connecting these books somehow.
Oh no, never mind. I was gonna say, could the fourth object be the word keys? But no,
maybe
they weren't made out of bone.
Maybe. But I did see, like, some people were talking about how, like, it could relate to Crescent City in some way, the fourth Dread Trove, but I didn't want to look into it because obviously I haven't read Crescent City yet, so I wasn't gonna spoil it for myself.
Can there be, like, a connection between all three series?
They are connected.
Yeah.
The worlds are connected. When Aelin, spoiler alert, in Kingdom of Ash, so Throne of Glass series, if you haven't read that, spoiler alert, at one point Aelin is falling through worlds.
I remember that.
She falls through Crescent City.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. No, I didn't know that.
So she describes, like, a river that's like a crescent moon with, like, high rise buildings, and she's like, I've never seen anything like it before.
Yeah.
That's Crescent City.
And then she also falls into Valaris, which you know, right?
Yeah.
So as I was watching the live, Sarah J. Maas, like, confirmed it. I didn't really realize people didn't know that it was confirmed, and I kind of semi went viral on TikTok because I posted that, and, like, everyone's like, oh my gosh, see, like, it was true, they actually are connected and they're happening at the same time, and that was Aelin that
but
fell
it's like,
in the
literally,
sky.
just read Kingdom of Ash. Like, did people not read that book? It was so clear.
Yeah.
Rhys literally, like, helps Aelin to slow her down because she was falling too fast.
Yeah, and that's why I was so confused why people were so
But is it
astounded.
people are confused because they haven't read Throne of Glass series?
I don't think so.
I mean, I don't know. When I read Kingdom of Ash, Crescent City wasn't even out yet, and I already had a feeling that city was Crescent City because it made sense. Like, I don't know why people didn't connect the two dots. But Aelin shows up in this book.
No, and, like, Aelin did see Rhys and Feyre. Like, she didn't name them, obviously, but it was a dark-haired man with a pregnant-ass mate. And obviously, it was Rhys and Feyre. But I didn't know. What was shocking to me during the live was that she said they were happening, obviously, at the same time. And after I read A Court of Silver Flames, you realize that the stories are happening at the same time.
Simultaneously in different... dimensions. Just for context, because you didn't explain, in this book, when there's starfall, someone says, oh, there's this bad thing, like this, it's like because they see a red star, and that's like a bad thing to see. I don't know if you remember that, as they comment on it, and essentially Sarah confirms that was Aelin. That's Aelin falling through the sky at that point.
Oh,
she's the red star.
I don't know if you girls had listened. No, I don't think I sent you the video. She had said that she originally wrote that scene in Rhys's perspective. Yeah. But she didn't include it because her publisher, her editor, actually decided that it wasn't smart, like a smart move to have. like a book, like 500 pages of like Nesta and Cassian's perspective, and then just to like throw in Rhys's perspective.
Random scene where it's
I understand, but I also would have wanted to read that in Rhys's perspective too.
Personally, it doesn't bother me at all that she didn't include it, because we got it from Aelin's perspective in Kingdom of Ash, and it's not a Rhys scene. It's a Rhys scene. It's Aelin's scene. It's
True.
She's the one going through something at that point, and he's the one helping her out, and we needed to see it in her perspective, and we did. To see it from his is kind of redundant, in my opinion, because he's just seeing someone fall through the worlds and not understanding what's going on.
That's
and
true.
Just understanding that she needs help. That's it. Like, that's not really needed.
Yeah.
So the fact that it was just mentioned that it was a red star, and like, if you haven't read the other book, you have no idea what that's
That's true. You would just think it is an ill omen or something.
Yeah.
But I do think it's very curious that this book talked about portals and worlds and parallel worlds as often as it did. Gwen mentioned it. She mentioned that her boss is working on something, in terms of like the 26 worlds or something. I think there are 26 that they were talking about. And like, obviously we see the harp and how it has the ability to open up parallel worlds and like dimensions and go through time and all of that stuff. And I just think it's really, if she's not setting up a crossover, then what is she setting up?
I mean, she did have the crossover.
No, but I mean like an actual crossover with dialogue and like...
One day, Seff, we will get a scene of Rowan and Aelin and Rhys and Farah having like dinner.
No, but I need Nesta and Aelin
cool.
to meet. I think they would be besties.
Oh. Really? I feel like Rhys and Aelin would get along.
They would understand each other better.
Rowan and Nesta would get along.
That's true.
They'd just be brooding in a corner, not talking to each other, and that would be the greatest night for
But I think Nesta's cutting humor is very similar to Aelin's, which is why I think they would get along.
True. I mean, Aelin would get along with literally anyone.
I love Aelin. Anywho, we got really sidetracked. Moving forward, Nesta plucks 3 strings on the harp, and it takes her to the house of Rhys and Feyre. Cassian is injured, obviously. He suffered a lot fighting Lanthis. And Nesta finally apologizes to Feyre, who literally forgives her instantly. Like, it wasn't even a question for Feyre. She's like, yep. And then they decide to hide the harp away from the Maas because they think maybe the power for the both of them might not be the best thing to have them in the same room together. And then Rhys, I think it was Rhys, who decided to talk about like the history of the first High King. They hold off on getting their crown because it's in Ryelin's possession. So they kind of decide not to go about getting that because they don't want to have the power of all 3 of them at the same time. Because it also makes it easier for Rylan to get all of them, basically, if she comes to get them. But they also kind of feel a bit wary of like their connection with Eris because he's feeling a bit unsettled with their alliance. So they kind of decide to use Nesta to make him drool over her at winter solstice because we find out that she has a history in dancing and she was a ballet dancer when she was a kid, and apparently she has this power over men in the ballroom where she can make them fall in love with her, basically.
Okay, 2 things.
Yes, let's hear it.
First of all, did you feel like I felt that they kept using Nesta over and over and over again because she's easily, usable? That's not a word, I don't think. But did you feel that way? That they were throwing her into dangerous situations just because she's kind of expendable in their eyes at that point? Not
necessarily. She wanted to, though. Like, she never once said, oh, no, I don't feel comfortable. Even in her own head, she wanted to do what they were telling her to do.
She didn't want to scry.
Okay, yeah, that's one thing that I didn't like either, but
I feel like they kind of forced her to scry by using Elaine, kind of.
No, Elaine.
She knew she didn't want.
Nesta took it upon herself to try and scry for it because Elaine was like, oh, I'll find it. And then Nesta's like, are you dumb? You're not putting yourself in danger. And also you probably can't do it.
The shade in that line.
Do you not like Elaine?
I have thoughts about.
She was a little.
I have thoughts about her. We'll share at the end.
Yeah, we can talk about Elaine later on.
Anyways, I feel so bad. The people who ship Ilariel are gonna hate me. Anyways, what was I talking about? Oh yes. I think she more or less wanted to do it. I don't think she felt like she was forced to do it. Any of it.
But I can see why it would feel like they're putting her.
Yeah, I can see that
in situations and like using her and.
I just didn't like it. There was something about it that every single time they were like, oh well, Nesta can do it, or Nesta will do it. There was something about it that was really bothering me, and how they went about it, or the fact that they disregarded the fact that she has trauma, that maybe she's not ready. And I kept thinking, like, Rhys would never ask Farah to do something she's not ready for. Never. We saw it through the whole of Akamath. He was constantly checking in with her, like, if you can't do this, it's all right. Like, heck, I don't know if you remember, in Akamath, she couldn't go to the prison the first time. Yeah. They stopped, they went back, and then they tried again the next day because she couldn't do it.
Yeah, I remember that.
And I was like, where is that sympathy or empathy for Nesta? Where is that for Nesta? You know what I mean? It was constantly like, no, we gotta have these things right now. Go.
I think what the difference is, Rhys was kind of in Farah's head, and Farah was very vocal about what she didn't want to do and what she did want to do, whereas Nesta puts on the strong front, and she wants to do the things that she's been told to do. Yeah, Nesta's like, maybe not for the right reasons, not because maybe she wants to do it for her, but maybe to protect Elaine or whatever. But again, her strong personality kind of overpowers any fear that she might be feeling. And I think maybe Rhys only sees, or literally the inner circle only sees, like, the strength and her desire to want to do something.
I don't know. I mean, even when she said she didn't want to scry, like, they literally put like a countdown on her.
That
they
was
were
Amarin.
Like, we need this by the end of, like, I was like speechless.
That was Amarin. I hate that bitch. I honestly hate her. I'm not even lying.
I don't, because Amarin is Amarin. Like, I don't expect different from her. I expect different from Rhys.
Okay.
I really do.
Do you think it was like a sort of punishment, like kind of like forcing her, like that was
maybe
Heck,
he was more understandable towards Eris than he was with Nesta.
True, that's true, but I also think it's personal for him, in the sense where, like, he knows what Farah went through at the hand of Nesta, and, like, he knows as a human what Farah went through because of Nesta, and maybe it's just for him it's more personal. He's kind of blinded by, like, that hatred that Farah won't allow herself to feel for Nesta.
Well, how do you feel then about the fact that Nesta literally had to let him know that she didn't mean any harm to Farah? How fucked up is that?
Has she shown any different, though, beforehand?
They're sisters.
She let... Okay, but I think you also need to
Did Nesta ever attack Farah in any way? Did she attack anyone in the court?
She was gonna let them all die if Farah didn't pick up the bow and hunt for herself and her family.
I mean, to be honest, Nesta was she was nasty in the previous
she would have
book.
let
really was, because
her sisters die to spite her dad, because she was not willing.
And she admits it too.
To do
There's parts where she admits it as well in this book.
I don't know. I don't like the idea of Rhys putting himself between two sisters.
I agree.
Maybe it's because I have sisters of my own, and I like to deal with my own shit with my own sisters, and I don't want anyone to come in between us and decide things for us. Yeah. Like, maybe that's why I'm so, like, about this, because I'm seeing it from my own perspective, and I'm like, why are you putting yourself between these sisters? Like, let them deal with it.
No, I agree, and I was just playing devil's advocate. I was trying to look at the other side of things, but I totally agree. A man should not get in between two sisters. Like, that's just the way it is. Ever.
That's none of your business.
Yeah. Despite how nasty one could be.
Yeah. My second question is, how did you feel about the whole ball thing?
I liked it. I thought it was
dancing. the marriage proposal.
Oh gosh, Eris. I find Eris intriguing.
Yeah, there's more to
There
him.
is a lot more, and I am intrigued.
I am
It's a
too.
hot redhead who is kind of an asshole, and you kind of know that's my brand. I liked the ball scene, and I love my favorite. You find out, yes, Nesta was taking lessons from Moore to learn the dances of the Fae, but Cassian was also taking dance lessons from Moore. He's so cute.
And he was so nervous at first because he just knew he couldn't compare it to Eris because like somehow Eris is a terrific dancer as well.
Mm-hmm.
But it was so cute how he was really nervous.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then like I really did love that scene. I didn't like see the purpose of it, but I enjoyed it, you know? Like sometimes there are just scenes where you're like,
Yeah.
I'm just here for the ride.
It didn't have an overarching purpose, I would say. I mean, besides cementing Eris as an ally, I guess. But also, I don't know if you girls picked up on it. Cassian had kind of stated, no, he did state that Nesta was made for the Night Court colors, but Elaine looked out of place.
Yeah. I was like, interesting.
Is that foreshadowing for the future? You think?
I think it just means she doesn't, she's not, spoiler, I don't think she's going to be with Azriel.
But, spoiler, I don't think she's going to be with Lucien either.
Me either.
And with who?
I really feel like with every book, Sarah J. Maas just zeroes in on the fact that they really are not
gonna be a thing.
Compatible.
Yeah.
Every time they're in the same room, Elaine just wants to be somewhere else.
And what breaks my heart?
Lucien gives me the vibes of like, I'm pining over her because I feel like I have to.
Yeah.
And not because I actually do.
And what breaks my heart, though, and this is one of my gripes with Elaine, and I didn't want to get into it now, but we kind of mentioned it already, is that she never gave Lucien a chance, or, like, the time of day. She never did, and, like, it's not fair to Lucien. Like, he's one of the kindest men, I was going to say I've ever known, but, I mean, fictionally...
You wish.
Fictionally, he's one of like the greatest guys I think I've ever read about, and like the fact that even Feyre tried to sell Lucien to Elaine, it didn't help matters. She's like never given him the time of day. Even his gifts, she just throws to the side. Like she does not care, and it's just like it breaks my heart. And he deserves better.
Yeah, no, their vibes together. It's just I'm not feeling it. I feel like this is not going somewhere happy. I
for sure.
Plus, like, I mean, Lucien had like such a sad past.
Yeah,
like,
and I think he deserves love.
His lover was murdered by his father.
Yep.
Then he had this friendship with Tamlin, and like one could argue that Tamlin was just as controlling and messed up towards Lucien as he was towards Feyre. Like for a while, Lucien, especially in Akawar, like that timeline.
Oh. Where he used Lucien. He used
Yeah.
Lucien to partake in the Great Rite or whatever, and like have sex with the Anthe or whatever.
He deserves to not be discarded as like, I don't even want to give you a chance.
I know.
Type of thing.
That is what I agree with as well. It's not fair.
But because I feel like he doesn't really want that chance anyway, I'm like, okay.
But
like I just feel like he doesn't give me the feeling that he wants her. He wants her because she's his mate, and he wants that feeling.
Okay. Yeah. What do you think? Because I know this is one of your ships, Elaine and Lucien.
I don't know anymore. I read the bonus scene and I don't know. I'm confused.
Huh. I felt like that would have pushed you closer to a Lucien.
Yeah, but I shouldn't. Okay, before the bonus scene, Lucien and Elaine. No, I don't know.
Because what she does in that bonus scene kind of makes me more mad on Lucien's part.
Yeah.
Like, it's disrespectful. That's true. Anyway, I don't want to get into it, but, you know.
Okay. Moving on. So after the whole ball, Cassian takes Nesta to her old human cottage, and we kind of relive their past in Nesta's perspective. And they're past meeting Feyre, Elaine, and Nesta. And we see the cot that her dad would sleep on in front of the fire, and like Nesta kind of sees it in a different light, that he had given them the bed and had taken like the cold floor, so that they could have some sort of warmth. And like she sees that he did kind of care in his own way, but she was still very angry.
But first of all, it's important to mention how big of a step that is for Nesta, because she talks about how this is like laying down her pride. Like she is showing him how run down her life was, how they had nothing. They were dirty, hungry. They didn't like have a roof or whatever. I mean, they did, but like, you know what I mean? And they were sleeping all together in one bed. You know what I mean? Like, it was really important for her to show herself to Cassian that way. And for him to say, like, I'm not the one that's ever going to judge that part of your life because I was right there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I've been there.
And he's lived worse too, so
yeah, so that was like an important moment of connection between the two of them, and like understanding that they had.
No, and I think it was important, I think, for Nesta to see, I guess, her life as a human in a different lens, because she was very hateful prior to going there, and I think she needed to see her life and with someone's other, like another person's perspective as well.
No, yeah, I agree. I feel like the scene was necessary for her to show herself to Cassian. I feel like she does that a lot with everybody, right? Where she kind of tells them so they can kind of make up their minds. So she can kind of accept, like, okay, they're going to leave me. I might as well show them all of me and all the bad things that I've done.
But she does it, like, when she's ready to do it. And that's important. And, like, I appreciate that. She's not, she won't just do it because, you know, she feels like she has to, or get, you know, naked, quote unquote naked in front of someone just for the sake of it. Like, she'll do it, but she'll do it when she's ready to do it.
And I think it was important for her to go back to the place where, I guess you could argue, her hatred, like her darkness kind of started.
And she took the wood carving that her father did.
Yeah, for Elaine. And, like, I love how Cassian was like, did he ever carve anything for you? And she's like, are you kidding? Why would I?
No.
I would never have let him do something like that.
But you also see, because they look at the drawer that Farah painted, and, like, the fact that for Nesta it was flames. And I was like, her whole life she was compared to this thing that she hates about herself. Like, in a way, like, doesn't that make you pause? It's like, of course she's gonna arbor some real hatred for herself. Like, that's literally, it kind of comes back to the whole thing of like, oh, Gwyn and Emery are the only ones that see her for herself, because everyone else sees her as this, like, as you call her, death lady. So yeah, like, it started right there.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, maybe it was Farah being, like, somewhat prophetic and being like, oh, she's gonna be the flames. Like, sure. But it also, like, she's constantly compared to this, you know?
I didn't think of it that way. What I saw when I looked at those, her drawer in particular, because one, her flames aren't orange and yellow and red. Like, we know they're silver.
Sure, whatever.
I looked at it as, like, she was going to be living in this eternal sense of turmoil. Like, you know, like, she was always constantly going to be burning with, like, this hatred, like, this pain. And that's how I saw her drawer. I didn't see it as, like prophetic, or, you know, in the terms, like, she'll have the power of flames or whatever. Or even, like, you know, being compared to those flames. I just saw it as, yeah, she's just going to be eaten up or burnt alive with that pain that she's going to be feeling.
But that's sad. That's the only painting that represents her that Farah has ever done.
Exactly.
She didn't paint her in her house until later on. But even then, you could argue that it's Nesta looking like a warrior, like, full of blood and shit. Like, you know, like, how about a nice portrait of her and Cassian looking happy? You know, like, even then, she's related back to that thing. She's, like, compared to that thing.
I think that was important to remark upon. But flowers for Elaine, I mean, that's pretty on the nose for that. Anyways, moving on. when
So Starfall. Isn't it Starfall after that?
no, first before that is Emery coming to the library, and then Gwen gives them their present, and it was them being written into the book that her boss is working on for the Valkyries. And because like Gwen breaks me, she's like, this is because our stories are worth telling. And like I think that was something Nesta always like felt, and she talked about how like her story isn't worth telling, like her past isn't worth anything, and like she doesn't want to tell it. But like she has this person Gwen who's like seriously suffered through a lot. And at this point, Nesta, I don't think they really know like the how bad it was for Gwen and like what she's been through. And it's just, yeah, just that line was so simple that our stories are worth telling, but like it holds so much emotions for these characters as well as like the readers as well.
Everyone's story is worth telling.
Yeah, everyone matters, and I'm just happy that Nesta had to, like, she heard that.
Especially in a book for a character like Nesta.
Yes.
Who a lot of people, real life people, readers, were like, I don't care about this character. She's, mean.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't deserve happiness for what she did. I don't care. I don't want to know. And it's like, well, she deserves her story told.
I agree.
Yeah.
Moving on to, sorry. I wanted to get to this part because I thought it was really interesting. Because we know like this house, it's not just enchanted, because we know the houses in this Prithian world, they have the ability to give you food and like water and like get your bath ready and all that stuff. Anyways, we realize that the darkness in the library is something that they've all feared up until this point. Like it was something that they, Emery heard her father, Nesta, experienced like the same darkness she felt in the cauldron. I don't remember if Gwen had ever felt anything there. But then Nesta finally, she's led basically by the house to the center of the library. And I kind of have the quote here, and I'll just read it. So this is Nesta after she's like experienced like the darkness. She's at the part where she feared the most. She's never really gone to this point in the library yet. And then she realizes that the darkness that she was so afraid of in the library is actually like the heart of the house. And so basically what she says is, but your darkness, wonder softened her voice. You were trying to show others who you are, down deep, what haunts you. You were trying to show them all those dark, broken pieces because the priestesses and Emery and I were the same as you. And then she blew out her lantern. I'm not afraid, she whispered into it. You are my friend and my home. Thank you for sharing this with me. Nesta's relationship with this house made me sob.
Honestly, the house is the standout character in this book.
Yeah.
The house is literally the best character. I was like, oh my god, I didn't know I needed a sentient, loving house in my life, but here it is, and I love it.
And I want it. I want that house.
Yeah, if I can pair this with the Starfall thing that I'm trying to say for like 20 minutes now.
Oh, yeah.
Because during the whole Starfall thing, Amryn and Nesta apologizes to Amryn for what she said.
Yeah.
And Amryn tells her, you made the house.
Yeah.
Like,
it was another maid.
And Nesta is like, how? And she was like, because you needed a friend. Like, deep down, she realizes that all she needed in those early days when she felt so alone and isolated, she needed a friend. So she made a friend. She made the house what it is, because otherwise it wouldn't be as sentient as it is and everything. So, so this kind of comes back to the whole thing about, like, Reese saying that her power is death. Mm-hmm. It's not. It's also life, in a way, because, also later on she sort of gives life, but we can talk about that when we get there. We'll talk about that later. But it was so important. It was important because up until that point, she was convinced that all her powers could do was destroy.
Because that's all anyone's been telling her.
Yeah. So she was finally realizing that, no, her powers could also be joy and love. Yeah. And care, and that was so important for her. And I'm pretty sure she nearly breaks down in that scene, and I was like, same.
I think she did break down. And then Amryn's response to that was, sorry, I have this quote too, and I thought it was really important to share. after she says, after Nesta thought her power only does bad. But Nesta tells her, that's the key, isn't it? To know the darkness will always remain. But how you choose to face it, handle it, that's the important part. To not let it consume. To focus upon the good, the things that fill you with wonder. She gestured to the stars zooming past. The struggle with the darkness is worth it, just to see such things.
Yeah, and that's also the whole thing with the stairs, because the first time she manages all the stairs, she does it out of anger, and she feels no joy when she's done. There's nothing good that comes out of it. She just does it, and then she's angry. But when she does it for real, and she goes down all the steps, and eventually she's like, all right, I did it. You know what I mean? Like, then she feels actual joy of, like, doing it, and she goes right back up. She's like, I don't have anything else to do, but this is great. I've done it. You know what I mean? So it's like the things that you do for yourself, not out of anger, but out of feeling like, yeah, I can do this, will always outweigh the ones that you do out of anger.
And also doing things on your own, despite what everyone, if people are telling you to do things, it doesn't have the same value. Like you said, if you do it for yourself and because of yourself. Which is why, like, I loved when she finally came up those 10,000 stairs and, like, Cassian was there waiting for her. And, like, this is right before the Starfall event. And, like, she just runs into his arms, sweaty and all, stinky and all. And she's just, like, so grateful to be alive at that point.
Yeah. Because she didn't do it to escape. She didn't do it to go drown her sadness into alcohol and men. She didn't do it out of anger. She just did it because she knew at that moment that she had the inner strength to do it.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And then once she was down, she was like, all right, well, done it.
Yeah.
Bucket list.
But we didn't talk about the winter solstice event. So this was like, their Christmas party or whatever with just the family. And then Nesta agrees to attend as well. And this is, we finally find out what Cassian had gotten her the previous year that he threw into the water. How did you girls feel about it being one of the first texts ever written? Like one of the first books?
I mean, it was fitting, right? Because she's a reader. But it got me thinking about that theory that people had.
Yeah.
So I made a note, and then I went back. I was like, okay, it wasn't the siphon.
No,
it
wasn't.
I know. I kind of wish it was, though.
But I kind of like that it was the book because, like, it's not something that relates to her Fae new. Like, it wasn't something that related to her new self. It was more like he knew her to the point where he knew her interests. He knew what she was passionate about, and that was books and reading and like, imagine getting one of those first things ever written.
Yeah, because he says, like, I don't expect her to read it, but because she loves books, I think she would treasure this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But do you get my point now of, like, so we get Starfall. We get the Night Court shenanigans. We get the prison. You get my point of, like, this is kind of like we're going everywhere we've already been.
Yeah. I get that, and I agree with that, but I feel like for this case in particular, this winter solstice family event was needed. It was needed for a rewrite. I think Cassian and Nesta needed a rewrite of that instance of last year.
Sure.
So this one I think was needed. But then we find out this year that Cassian decided to get her, oh my gosh, I love this man, an orb that plays music because, again, he knows it's one of her passions.
That was a sweet gift.
Cutie pie.
I know.
Yeah.
How did you girls feel about her reaction to it? Because at first she's, like, elated and so happy about it, but then afterwards she starts being a bit mean. He had gotten her the music thing, and then he tells her how he had gotten musicians to play the day after. And then this brings her back to, like, her insecurities and how she feels undeserving, like, with his love and all of that. And her self-doubts are resurfacing. And then she tells him that she just deserves Eris. Like, someone like Eris, not someone as good as him.
Oh, that scene when he's like, oh, this is not a proposal. And she's like, no, that's what Eris is for. And he's like, what was that?
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God.
I know.
We're about
I was
to
like,
get
shit,
it.
I know where this is going. And I was like, I don't want it. Don't hurt my baby Cassian.
I was literally interrupted in the middle of that scene. Like, literally when he says, what was that? I was like, how dare you? I'm about to get the angst that I want.
Yeah. But it's just so sad. Because that's when she finally breaks down and tells him her, like, self-hatred. Like, it runs so deep. When she literally tells him, like, that was, like, her punishment. Not talking to him. Like, not pursuing that relationship with him. That was her punishment for everything she's done.
I know.
Was that also the scene where he said something like, well, I'm stuck with you, like, or something like that? Was it that same scene?
No, you guys are getting ahead. Where he said, yeah, I think she said that she was stuck with him, and then he said, I'm shackled to you or something.
Yeah.
That was later on.
That scene got me.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought it all blends
Probably
together.
the first and only time in the whole book where I was actually mad at Nesta. Because she was going to refuse his gift for the second time. I was like, Nesta, don't. He literally did it last year.
I know.
Because you're a bitch. Please don't make us go through this again.
I know. But, like, when she, like, broke down and told him, like, that she doesn't deserve him, and, like, she never ever will.
I was like, thank God this evolved into them actually talking to each other
and communicating,
and not, yeah. Because I was like, I can't do this again.
Yeah.
I cannot.
How did you feel about that?
So then they have sex.
Yeah, this is the one where you wanted to talk about.
This is the one where they actually make love.
Yes.
For the first time.
Yeah.
And they mention a golden thread between them, which represents the bond.
Yes.
So by that point, we know that the bond was already there.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where I want us to talk about the mating bond in this book. How did you feel about it? Because obviously we've had the example of Rhys and Farah.
Mm-hmm.
And then, not the same series, but we've had Rowan and Aelin.
Yeah.
And the two worlds kind of operate the same as far as, like, mating bonds and stuff. How did you feel about the portrayal of the mating bond in this book? Because I was very confused, and I felt like Cassian wasn't acting like a mated male. Even to the point where, like, afterwards, instead of giving us the fuckfest that we all anticipated, because that's what happened with Rhys and Farah, he leaves.
But he leaves because it was, like, too much for him to handle, wasn't it?
But I wanted that, like, because it's so fun. Like, just, come on, guys. Like, that scene in Akamath after they've had their fuckfest and they go back to the cabin and, like, Rhys literally has to beat the shit out of Cassian to get some energy out. Come on. And, like, it doesn't last long, but I'm like, yes, please give me that territorial, ultra protective, just, like, uber alpha male Cassian for, like, one chapter.
And then he leaves for, like, 5 days, right?
He leaves for 5 days. Yeah. We don't get to see him that way.
Because he was fighting it. He was still waiting for the other shoe to drop with Nesta. Because, like, they haven't reached that point where, like, they've overcome every obstacle. And I think he was just so afraid of that. And he himself was also trying to fight the mating bond without, declaring, like, rejecting the mating bond. And, like, he was just so scared. So, and also, the fuckfest with Rhys and Farah happened after their mating ceremony. So we didn't get Nesta and Cassian's mating ceremony.
True. And people want it. I don't want it.
I want their ceremony. Can you imagine? It would be beautiful. They deserve it, both of them.
It's a wedding. Like, what?
Do you know? What? I want it.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's because she's never given us a wedding before that I'm just like...
Which is why I think she should.
I wouldn't mind a wedding. A big old spectacle of a wedding.
Yeah, and it would be like the event of, the season, the life. Like, this is the royal... This would be like the royal wedding of royal weddings in Prithian.
I don't know. Maybe it's because they made it into like this big thing that I'm less interested in it than if it was like a, only close friends and family type thing.
Yeah.
But whatever.
Moving on.
This is besides the point.
Yeah, that's not till part 4. So during that time, Cassian and Azriel started building, I guess obstacle courses that resemble what the obstacle course that you complete to get into the event, which is basically how Illyrians become Illyrian warriors. And yeah, so basically our 3 girls kind of defeated that. And Devlon, which is like one of the warriors, the sexist, disgusting warriors, and some other men, Illyrian warriors.
Were you guys imagining like an obstacle course, sort of like Wipeout or like those shows where it's like...
Yeah, I kind of was.
I feel like
that's what I was imagining.
How they described it, no?
Yeah.
I'm just envisioning them getting knocked over by like a ball.
It was funny. Yeah, so what happens because of that?
Yeah, but they also cut the ribbon. Gwen cut it first, then Emery, and then Nesta.
Yeah. Wait, don't they have in this part their like girls' night where they have like bracelets? They make friendship bracelets.
That was so cute.
Yeah,
and
they
Nesta
made friendship bracelets.
Nesta makes them. Well, she
made
sort
them.
of puts some. Yeah, she puts some of her magic into them, and like it becomes sort of like a GPS of sorts.
Yeah, like a homing beacon.
Yeah.
And basically she just imbued it with magic while whispering that they will always find each other despite everything. Yeah, so basically part 3 ends with them getting abducted in the middle of the night and taken to the Blood Rite.
Part 4. Ataraxia. I don't know how to say that. Ataraxia? How do you pronounce that?
Ataraxia?
Ataraxia?
I don't know.
Ataraxia.
I'm not no linguist over here.
Anyway, it means hope, right?
You don't find that until the end, but I love when it happens.
Well, I mean, we are in part 4.
Yeah,
so
it does.
It's
it means something. Oh, it means inner peace.
That's the one.
Because my girl found it.
Yeah.
Anyways, they are in the Blood Rite currently, and Nesta is the first to wake up, and we see that there's somehow weapons in the Blood Rite, and that's something that is not allowed. Like, weapons aren't a thing. You have to make your own weapons. And also, you are not able to pull anyone out of the Blood Rite. Even Rhys is not the exception to that rule. He isn't above it. And once Cassian realizes that, they've been taken away, he's crazy. Like, he's going crazy at this point because he's like missing his mate. We didn't talk about it, but at the end of part 4, yes, the whole mate discussion happens, and Cassian is like, what did he say? I'm shackled to someone like you.
Okay, yeah, and then so first of all, I think she says like mates is for the Fae, and I'm not Fae, so obviously she has some work to do there.
Yeah.
In accepting what she now is. And then he says he's shackled to her, and she's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, because
I think we all were like, what the fuck? And like immediately he's like, oh, that was a poor choice of words.
You can see himself hating himself.
I love that he literally says that.
Yeah.
And she's like, you think?
But that was not cool of him at all to say.
Yeah, and that whole conversation ends with her saying like, because, okay, so one thing we didn't talk about is that they made this, like, bargain in the beginning. They have tattoos for it on their backs. Yeah. And the whole bargain is that she can call in a favor at some point in exchange for him doing what again?
Okay,
training
so he had wanted her to train, and she had said, yes, I will train with you if only you give me a favor or something.
Yeah, okay. And so she calls in the favor in that scene, and she's like, you will go and you will not talk to me until I talk to you.
Yeah.
And so he's forced to leave, like literally compelled to leave her, even though he doesn't want to.
Yeah.
And that's when she goes to Emery, crying, they talk, blah, 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 and that's the whole Blood Rite thing. So. Yeah.
And then, so that's why he was not able to protect them or save them from being put into the blood right, because apparently it's very brutal. Yeah. Nesta makes her first kill. She's on the run. She's trying to find.
Hold up. You cannot just fly over the fact that Reese is like, I don't care that you're worried about your mate right now. You gotta go save fucking Eris over there.
Oh, that's right.
I was so mad.
Okay, no,
Plus
I
the whole
agree. I
bargain
agree with what
thing.
you're saying, but I think you also need to look at it differently, in the sense where Reese knew if he had let Cassian, like, you know, do his own thing, Cassian would have probably ended up in the right and taken Nesta out of there and, like, you know,
Cassian
destroy
ends
things
up in
and
the
died.
right anyway.
But it was over, though.
It was over at that point.
Listen, hold on. So, Nesta is kidnapped and thrown into the blood right with her friends. That's one. Two, we find out that Reese and Farah did the stupid-ass bargain together so that Reese can't be the one to go and retrieve Eris himself because of this fucking bargain that if Farah dies, he dies. Dumbasses. And then, three, he's like, so Cassian, you're gonna have to be the one to go, and I don't care that your mate is in the blood right because we need you right now, when we all know that if this was Farah, Reese would literally be going insane, and no one would be asking him to be going off to some distant plane to save a dumbass that got kidnapped. All right? Thank you. That was
okay.
Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
I'm not a Reese sympathizer, okay? Like, I know what he's done wrong, and I get your points. I really do, but I also think you need to acknowledge that Feyre did not, like, have the same training that Nesta has. Nesta is literally now a Valkyrie. She is trained Valkyrie. And Cassian, at the back, like, in the back of his mind, he knows that these three women can handle themselves and they need to do this for themselves. But I agree with you. Yes, Reese would have, like, tore the world apart to get Feyre out of there, but he also is not above that law. And secondly, as I said before, he made sure Cassian was occupied and protected with Azriel, because he didn't want, obviously, Cassian, because he knows Cassian's mind isn't fully on board with the mission of rescuing Eris. I get that, you know, and I get, you know, what you're saying, but I also think that Cassian knows Nesta can handle herself if need be.
And then wasn't he put in danger and still going to retrieve Eris? Like, he was still put in danger?
But it was more so like a waiting game. Like, it was a stakeout.
It was a stupid-ass thing. That's what it was. Nobody should have gone. That's what should have happened, all right? And it makes it worse that Nesta and the girls literally said, yeah, nah, we don't want to do the blood right.
Yeah.
And then they end up being thrown in there with the dumbass cousin that's actually kind of evil and working with the queen.
Well, because he's being controlled by the crown.
Anyway, it was by that point, ladies and gents, that I was like...
That Marge canceled Reese.
I literally canceled Reese. I was like, Cassian deserves to be panicking in a corner right now.
And he was. He was panicking while staking out Eris.
Do you have a TED Talk for us?
I'm back and forth between you two. But I mean, it was a distraction for Cassian, because if he would have gotten her out of there, he would have faced death, right?
Yeah. And even Reese couldn't protect him from it. So I honestly think Reese was looking at it.
I get it, Marge, and I get it, Seff, so.
Yeah, he was protecting his brother and also, like, his mate. And, like, it's just, like, it was a tough situation for Reese to be put in. And we also can't forget he's still dealing with the idea that his mate's gonna die and he's gonna die and, like, what's gonna happen to his child. And, like, it was a lot going on for Reese. And I'm not sympathizing with him. I'm empathizing with him. And I think we need to be able to recognize that Reese is allowed to have moments where he, like, messes things up and, like, doesn't make the best decisions, because, like, he is going through things too. And, like, did he get to work through his traumas under the mountain? I don't really recall. And I just think it's a buildup of a lot of things happening at this point in the book. And yeah, I don't know where I was going with that.
Moving on.
Anyways, Nesta gets
Yeah.
Emery first
Yeah.
because she's the closest, and I think she was also in the most danger.
Yeah.
And then after that, they get Gwen, and so they continue on to the Blood Bright. The girls forge ahead. During this time, Az and Cassian are doing their stakeout type thing. Gwen gets shot in the leg by trying, like, they're trying to go over the bridge that would lead them to the mountain Ramiel. But yeah, Gwen shot in the leg. Nesta, here is where we find out Feyre had actually taught Nesta how to shoot a bow and arrow, and she uses that and shoots the men chasing. No, she uses that to shoot an arrow to Gwen so that she could, because they've cut the bridge at this point, to swing over. And I thought that was a really interesting moment because we never really thought that Nesta knew how to shoot a bow.
And then they have that scene, because so they've made it to the bottom of the final mountain, which I can't remember the name of it. And by that point, so there's like 3 kinds of winners, I guess you could say, like 3
tiers.
Yeah, tiers. And so by that point, they're at like the 2nd tier. So like they could be like, oh, we'll just wait it out here for the next morning, and then we'll be, almost there.
Yeah.
Like, we're 2nd tier, it's fine. Like, we didn't even want to be here, whatever.
Yeah.
And that is the scene that I was referring to back in the first episode, where I said that one scene really got to me.
Yeah.
And it was this scene where they all tell their story.
Yeah.
Like, finally, they all open up to each other, Marie, Gwyn, and Nesta. And Gwyn is like, we're gonna climb that fucking mountain.
For us.
Because we're gonna do it for us. Not for this blood right, not for what it means. We're gonna do it for us because we deserve to do it, and we're capable of it. And I was like, oh my god. So, how did you feel about that?
Loved it. That scene was so powerful.
Yeah, it was. It really was powerful. Yeah, I agree.
I think when you found out the extent of what Gwen was going to go through, when she talked, said her story about how she was raped by one of Hybern's commanders, and he was about to pass her over to like his men and just be raped brutally over and over again, and all she was trying to do was save her people, save the children in the temple, and then Az was the one that had saved her and killed the commander and all the men that were going to rape her and brought her to the library, her safe haven, and it's been her safe haven for years.
Yeah.
I think, it was just really emotional.
And there's something else in the blood, right, that I feel could pass under, a lot of people's radar, but I thought it was a really important moment for Nesta. So in the blood right, magic stops, essentially. Like, you can't use your magic.
Yeah.
But it was that cousin, whatever, Emery's cousin, managed to how did he even manage that? I don't remember, but there were weapons there when it shouldn't have been. Anyway, and I don't remember exactly what brought this on, but at one point she talks about the fact that the blood right magic recognizes her as a person, not a thing. Do you guys remember that?
No.
That really struck me, because she was like, so, and she literally said she didn't realize how much she needed to hear that. That she was being recognized by this magic as a person, so her magic was she couldn't use her magic, as opposed to being a thing, and the magic was still working for them. So yeah, I mean, because I felt like that added to the whole thing of like, realizing that her magic isn't just for death, it can also create things and make things and whatever, and give life later on, and like, but also, you are not your power, you are a person.
Yes.
And you are not lesser than because of it, and
you are not more because of your power as well.
Yeah, it was like 3 lines in the whole thing, but I was like, whoa, that is huge for her.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people kind of miss that point.
But yeah, because I think in a way, when she made those 3 blades, I feel like part of her was looking at how they were treating those blades as like this mass weapon of destruction.
Yeah.
And she was seeing herself the same way.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
she kind of thought of herself the same way. And so she needed to realize, no, there is a difference between the objects and me, the person, you know?
So at this point, they're all very exhausted, and Gwen's leg is not helping her by any means. So Nesta decides to carry her, to the top of the mountain, basically, and that would mean that they won. And so yeah, Gwen is being carried, but then they sense Emery's cousin kind of chasing them with his men, and so Nesta makes the decision that she will sacrifice herself to allow Gwen and Emery to be safe. And she basically knocks out Gwen, so Emery could carry her, and then Nesta decides to, make her final move. And I just thought, like, that scene also had me crying, because of how emotional it was, because, yeah, I don't know. I just, like, that scene really broke me. I don't know.
And when she sees them, like, winnow away,
Yeah.
and she's like, they've made it.
Because she had kind of said, I don't remember, I think she did say it. She was like, how she kind of wanted, to do something good with her life and, like, to help people. And, like, obviously she wanted Gwen and Emery, her best friends, her new, like, her found family. This was her family at this point. And it's just, like, she wanted them to survive. And if that meant her dying, she was okay with that. At that point, until later on, as she's fighting Bellius, or whatever the heck his name is, that she kind of wanted a life with Cassian. She wanted a life with, Emery and Gwen, and she also wanted, to form bonds with Feyre and Elaine as well. And yeah, I just thought that whole scene was epic.
That was when she finally accepted Cassian as her mate, right?
Yes.
She calls him mate. Like, she makes a point of calling him that.
Yeah, when she was fighting
him.
Bellius or whatever.
Which, I mean, the whole thing is, like, so Cassian is compelled at that point, and, like, the queen is like, did you already say that?
No, I didn't.
Okay, so Cassian is, like, compelled by the queen to kill Nesta, but then last minute he turns the knife on himself because the wording of the queen was a little bit loose, so like there were holes in there, so like he managed to turn it on himself. And before he goes for the kill, because like it's like super emotional, because like in his eyes you can see that he's like pleading, like he's like, I don't want to do this. And so anyway, before he actually can kill himself, Nesta just like explodes.
Unleashes her power.
She literally, just amazing.
And she unmade her, that right? That's what she said?
Yeah.
Or Cassian said.
And turned her to ash.
She literally obliterated the queen.
Yeah, that was epic.
But before that, we got like our first actual physical appearance of Koshi. And I don't know how I feel about him yet, because I just feel like he didn't really leave an impression on me. Neither did Brylan, because I don't think the villains really had a purpose in this book. Like it was very much a character-driven story, like you said, and like a journey of a character. So I didn't really feel any lasting impact on like...
I feel like Nesta's worst enemy was herself.
Yeah, and that obviously, we're not getting into it yet, but that was her monster. Her belief that she was undeserving, and like everything that she's been through. And anyways, things are okay. Cassian is saved. Queen is dead. Mor decides to arrive and say Nesta's in labor. And not Nesta, sorry. Feyre's in labor.
If only.
And
can you imagine? It's like that TV show, I Didn't Know I Was Pregnant.
I used to watch that all the time on TLC.
Anyways.
So Nesta is, and Cassian, they're all there awaiting this birth. Feyre is in pain. She's bleeding. She literally has blood everywhere. Baby comes out. Baby isn't breathing. It's
Baby is
crazy.
tiny.
Baby's also very tiny.
Premature. 2 months premature.
Yeah. And so Nesta doesn't know what to do at all. But like she feels like this urge. So she calls the harp, the mask, and the crown. And she plucks the 26th string and freezes time.
That was badass.
She was so badass.
How did she know the 26th string was time?
She finds out in the prison when she's talking to Lenthis or whatever his name is. He says something that has her go, oh, okay. And then it's never mentioned again, and that comes back then.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
At that point, at that moment.
And as she freezes time, she tells her sister that she loves her.
Yeah.
And it was the only time she's ever said it to anyone. And because of that, she begs the cauldron and the mother to show her how to save her sister and the baby in exchange for the powers that she stole from the cauldron and from the mother. So she saves the baby.
She gives everything she's got.
Yeah. And like the way that it was done too, like her lying on top of Feyre and like whispering that she loves her, and like just that whole scene again had me crying, because you get to experience Nesta's love,
and for the mother to be present in that moment, so like essentially a goddess, it's like, so even the mother is telling her, no, you are worth it, like you are not just death, you are life, you know what I mean? Like that's how I took it anyway. It was like, no, you're not just accompanied by death throughout your life, Nesta. Life is right there, you know, just waiting for you to acknowledge it.
Yeah.
That was a powerful moment.
Yeah.
And then time, you know, starts again, and Farah's like, I love you too.
I know. And then Rhys starts crying and falls to his knees in front of Nesta. And like we know, Rhys said he would never go on his knees for anyone besides his high lady. And he cries and thanks her.
Yeah. And the baby is grown, and Farah's womb was altered, and Nesta altered her womb, you know, casually, just like that.
She was like, you know what? I want babies too, so let me alter that.
But you know what thought I had? Because I was like, okay, so she altered her own and Farah's, but I was like, being a Gwyn and Azriel shipper, I was like, I really hope, you know, she paid it forward to her friends, because, like, I want some Gwyn and Azriel babies now, and that's not possible.
Okay. I didn't want to talk about this yet, but I feel like we can talk about it. Okay.
We're at the end anyway.
This is we the are. End of the book. So, yes, I might firmly ship Gwen and Azriel. And having a baby does not equate to you being endgame. Not at all. Like, your ability to have a baby, not have a baby, does not mean that's who you end up with or that's who you do not end up with. But I do find it interesting that Sarah J. Maas found the necessity, she found it necessary, I guess I should say, to mention that Gwen is half fae and half nymph, and because of that, her bones are more pliant. So that would mean her womb and her, you know, pelvic bones and all of that, and her birth canal would be more pliant.
That's so foreshadowing right there.
I had completely forgotten that fact.
You did? That was, as soon as I picked it up, I was like, wait, what's the point of this?
Because all I was thinking about was like, well, I really hope she like altered everyone in the room, whether or not they want kids, just in case, you know, because this is our one-time chance. You're never gonna get this chance again.
Yeah.
So. Okay, well, that's interesting.
So that's why I was like, But again, it doesn't mean that she's meant for Azriel or for a Batman. Like, she's not, you know.
Well, she totally is.
But she is, you know. Because Sarah J. Maas loves these babies, and, like, clearly with, you know, little Nixie.
Yeah. What did you think of the name Nyx?
I liked it, and I liked that it was chosen from a female goddess. What did you feel? Sass is just looking at us.
I mean, I liked it. I mean, I don't remember them mentioning is that, like, part of the...
Well, so they chose the name in the bonus chapter, the bonus scene. But they do mention it when they name the baby, that it's Nyx.
But I don't remember them mentioning, like, why Nyx.
Oh, okay, so yeah, it's in the bonus scene. It's one of a goddess that Reese had read up on and like found that goddess very, compelling and interesting. And he says like, let's name our kid Nyx, and like Feyre's like, oh, you know what, I like that name too. And so they decided to name the kid Nyx. I like that it was like a female goddess, and Reese has always been a feminist, so I really liked
feminist king, except when it comes to
shut up, man. Okay. Book ends.
Till the end.
Book ends with Nesta and Cassian having their mating ceremony sometime soon, and Cassian also meets with Eris one more time, and we find out that Baron had tortured him to get information about what had happened, but he never gave up. He never gave them up, and he keeps talking about more and how she never said the truth about what happened, which makes me think.
And Reese won't say either.
Yeah, he knows though. He knows the full truth?
He knows because he went into Eris's mind, and that's what made him trust Eris. He was like, okay.
Ah, interesting.
Is it just me, or do you think Mor and Eris are mates?
Oh.
But then that'd be
tragic.
That's
but maybe I could see it. I could see it.
But then I also don't like, does that mean same-sex mating bonds don't exist? Or because Mor, she's not bisexual. She identifies.
Yeah, no, I don't see Nesta. What? I don't see Sarah J. Maas not allowing that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but that would also indicate, why he would leave her there and not hurt her.
I feel like it's not that though. I really feel like there was more going on in that court than we know.
Okay.
I don't know. Eris is like
he's a very gray character.
A question mark. Yeah. Yeah, no, I don't know what to make of him, but I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued. I want to know more of what goes on in that head of his.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about that bonus scene, can we? Finally?
Yes.
So there is a Azriel / Elaine / Gwyn
/ Reese
bonus scene. Oh, yeah. Okay, so it's after solstice, and Azriel is still in the sitting room by himself, and Elaine walks in, and she was gonna leave his gift because she has a gift for him, but not for her mate. She was gonna leave his gift, incognito type of thing. But turns out he's right there, so she's like, ah, shit. So she gives him his gift. And what was the gift again? Earbuds, isn't it? Like,
yeah, earbuds to kind of.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah. Because of Nesta and Cassian.
I feel so bad for
really
Azriel.
And then that turns into them sort of kissing. I mean, not sort of, definitely kissing.
Because Azriel gives her present as well, which is a beautiful necklace.
A necklace?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, again, she appreciates his gift, not her mate's gift, which, anyway.
That's kind of, that was kind of fucked up.
And, as they are, sort of making out lightly,
they were about to kiss.
Okay. Azriel sees Reese, who is watching them being furious as hell, and he's like, you gotta come talk to me right now.
Yeah.
So they go into Reese's office, and Reese essentially tells him off. He's like, that is so disrespectful. Lucian is literally under this roof as we speak. Yeah. You cannot do that. I can't be dealing with a mate that has been disrespected that way, because he could ask for a duel, right? Like a duel to the death type of thing with Azriel, and he's like, I cannot be dealing with this right now, so you're gonna stay the fuck away from Elaine. Essentially doesn't really give him a choice, which again, Reese in this book.
Okay, no. Anyways. I have a theory about that one.
Anyways, so then Azriel is frustrated. He, whatever.
And
he flies off.
No, you're missing the valid. Hello, Azriel kind of talks to Reese and is like, the cauldron might have messed up. I must have I don't think Elaine was meant for Lucian. Three sisters should be with the three brothers. I'm owed her.
Oof. Yeah.
And then he flies off to the house
he flies off
wind.
to the roof, Yeah, and Gwyn is there practicing at night because Gwyn is, badass like that. And they talk. And wait, he doesn't give her the necklace.
No, he gives it to Clotho to give to Gwen.
After that scene.
Yeah,
after that
because
scene.
I said he gives Elaine her gift. He doesn't.
No, they have a conversation, just like about general stuff, and I remember I think she like eases him or whatever, like eases the tension he feels, and like she asks him if he sings, and then he's like, I'm a shadow singer, like duh. And then like his shadows dance and sing with her, and like they interact with her, and then he decides to like go to his room, and the next day he leaves a necklace that he gave to Elaine to give to Clotho.
Yeah, at first he's like, can you give this to Gwen? Mm-hmm. And I think the librarian is like, I think she's against it or whatnot, like something like, what?
No,
was she against it?
He said don't tell her it's for me, and she's like, why?
Yeah.
And then the reason why Azriel gave it is because someone, like Gwen deserves something nice.
That's what she says. That's what the librarian says. She's like, she deserves something this nice.
Yeah. And literally...
And that's kind of how it ends.
End scene.
So what did you girls think of him regifting the necklace?
I was fine with it. In the sense where, like I said, it wasn't that he was regifting something, he was just giving a necklace to someone that would appreciate it and would like something like that. Okay, as you have thoughts, I need to hear them.
Yeah, I think it was kind of fucked up because that just kind of opens up, because what if Gwen finds out that it was from him? That opens up, I don't know, feelings, and then there was a misunderstanding. Why did Elaine leave the necklace behind? He said this was a mistake. Did he say something like that? This is a mistake, or I'm sorry. Pushes her away. So she's thinking like, okay, he's rejecting me. Let me just leave the necklace here. Like there's a misunderstanding. So for him to pick it up and regift it.
Well, it makes for good angst in their future book where she finds out that the necklace she was cherishing because she thought it was for her, turns out it was for someone else.
Yeah, and so I think we'll
I'm not mad about it.
Find that out maybe at the mating ceremony. Because she might wear it to the mating ceremony.
Could be.
And then Elaine's gonna be like, bitch, that's my necklace. And then Elaine's gonna be like, bitch, that's my necklace. Actually, no. I think Elaine and Gwen they would not fight at all. Okay, so my theory about Rhys and why I think he was the way he is and like why he was so against it, despite them saying in previous books that Elaine has the right to reject the mating bond. I think it was he didn't want Lucien to be angry, and it's happening under his roof and Lucien is right there, is because like Lucien is one of like their prime allies. Like he's one of their most
for sure
like useful allies. He's like the what is it, the liaison between like the human allies, which is Jurian and Vasa, and like the Autumn Court, and even Tamlin, the Spring Court. He is like connected to all of these different courts and all these different people. So like if they lose Lucien, they kind of fucked.
Yeah, they can't lose him.
Yeah. So
that's the whole point of what he's saying. He's like, I can't lose that ally.
Exactly.
So you can't make him mad by, flirting with his mate under the same roof.
Yeah. So I understood Rhys. I didn't hate him. Like, some people are canceling Rhys after that experience and, like, reading that.
I wasn't canceling him. Honestly, it's the least worst thing he
has
done in this book. But, and plus, I'm a Gwyn and Azriel shipper, so I was like, yes, please tell him to stay the fuck away from the lane.
Okay. What do you think of the idea that Azriel and Gwen are mates? I highly believe that they are mates. Because
I can believe it too.
Because of the shadows, like of how like she makes his shadows dance and sing, and he is the shadow singer, and like making his shadows move, and like they like kind of flirt with her as well. Like they move closer to her, and like they like they are like intrigued by Gwen. That's why I think they're mates. Because when he's with Elaine, they kind of disappear. And if anything, Sarah J. Maas is known for like making you embrace who you truly are, instead of hiding aspects of yourself.
Does his shadows disappear when he's around
Elaine?
Yeah,
they do. Yes.
Elaine? Yeah. Oh wow.
They like draw back or like draw into himself. Which can I say my Elaine theory? I've been dying to say it.
Go on.
I think she's gonna be a villain.
Oh, I could see it.
Because, listen, I have the receipts in my head. I don't have them written down. Okay, so basically, I think she's honestly working with the human queens, and she's still in contact with Grayson, because he's mentioned in this
Who the fuck
book.
is Grayson?
Her human fiance.
Oh my god.
And
Okay.
I think the only reason why she was proactive, in a sense, to go and try and get the Dread Trove is because she's working with the human queens, or maybe she's working with Koshi, because he probably promised her that she will become mortal again if she gets him the Dread Trove. And I honestly think she wants to be human again and will do whatever it takes to be human again. And that includes being on Azriel's side and listening to his, like, because he's known as, like, the spy master, right? He has all the secrets. So maybe she thinks that being close to Azriel would benefit her in the sense where she would give that information to Koshi and the human queens and Grayson, who she probably still wants to be with. I think she's a villain.
I could see it, and I wouldn't be mad.
I would really love it, because right now Elaine very much doesn't have a personality.
Plus, she's barely in this book anyway.
She always mysteriously goes missing, and she always says, oh, I have to go fix this person's garden. Where are you going? Like, I honestly think she's going to meet these people.
Like, I could see it being either that or Sarah J. Maas is not planning on making her a main character at any point, because
But she does get a book.
she doesn't have anything going for her.
Sarah J. Maas has said that Elaine gets a book.
Really?
Mhm. That's why I think her only story arc, unless I'm reaching, is her being a villain.
Her villain origin story.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be mad about it. I honestly feel like Elaine is being what she thinks people want her to. Like, she's making people perceive her as not a threat, that she's she's underestimated all the time, and she's playing into that. She's playing into that weak facade.
But weirdly enough, I can see it, and I'd like it, but at the same time, I don't think that I would want to read it.
Really?
Does that make sense? Like, I'm not that interested still.
I would be interested in that, because I feel like it would be a big change in terms of, like, what she is now.
But where's the romance? Where's the romance?
I don't know, man. A tree? I'm kidding. Guys, I don't hate Elaine. I just don't find her as interesting as some people do, and I think that's on purpose. I think it's because she's trying to be unnoticeable.
In all fairness, she was a little bit more interesting in this book than she has been in the past.
Really?
A little bit less naive and, like, up in the clouds. And, like, she had a few moments where she was like, my trauma is not for you to, you know, whatever it was that she said.
I just don't like how absent she was for Nesta.
Yeah.
The one sister that has had her back and, like, was there while you were suffering, while you were, like, basically killing yourself. In book 3, Nesta was the one that was there and, like, fighting for you, and you couldn't even spend maybe 5 minutes fighting for her. Like, that broke my heart. Guys, I have another theory. Not my theory. I've heard it, but now just that you said the rose thing, and it was meant to be Elaine's rose, I think it ties into another theory I've heard.
Tamlin and Elaine, mates. Taking over the world. I don't know.
No, okay, so, like, some people believe that Elaine and Tamlin are endgame. And, like...
That's literally what I just said.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
Yeah.
Because, like, they think, like, that's the true Beauty and the Beast story, because he's a lion now, and, like, she's always meant to be, like, with flowers, and, like, that was her drawer, so Spring Court, hello, let's go.
Oh my god!
And then,
That's
so
crazy.
people think Beauty and the Beast in the sense where she's going to bring him out of his beastly form of a lion. And the rose represents the rose
What do you
and
mean a
Beauty and the Beast.
lion? He's a lion? He's not a wolf anymore?
Hasn't he always been a lion?
He's a beast.
No, he's a wolf.
No, he's not.
Yeah.
Well, whatever he is, whatever animal, goat, sheep, lion, dog, whatever.
Horse.
Whatever he is. Anyways, that's what some people think. And I'm like, I'm intrigued.
I can see it. Yeah.
I would be intrigued by that.
Still don't think I'd read it.
Me
but,
either.
I
It's two
can see it.
characters I don't really I'm not particularly attached to.
But that would make sense. Like, it makes sense now that you mention that theory if they end up being endgame.
Right? It does make sense. When I heard it, I was like, I could see it.
Because flowers don't really spell out autumn court. You know? Flowers die in autumn.
Yeah. So that's why spring court, unless she somehow, like, maybe Tamlin leaves it to Lucian. I don't know. But I still don't see her ending up with Lucian at all.
Wasn't there, like, a quote that either Nesta or Cassian said, like, she would thrive in the spring court? Like, that would be her.
Yeah.
Right?
The colors matter.
I zeroed in on that one. I was like, interesting.
Yeah.
And how did you girls feel about Gwen's murky origin story? About her mother being like half nymph, half fae or what? No, she was a nymph. And no, she was half. And then, so basically what had happened was her mom ended up in the spring court, or a court, I believe. And she had sex with a high fae. And some people really believe that who she had sex with was Tamlin, because that's the only way the timelines would line up. And her dad is Tamlin.
Wait, what?
I have that nymph part.
Yeah, because
highlighted.
No, all the other high lords and high fae would be under the mountain at this point. Gwen's like 20 years old, right? Or like 20 something, 25, 26. All the other high lords and high fae are under the mountain at this point.
Do you think she was, if true, do you think she would be conceived during Karanaim or whatever it was called?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Oh,
it says, my grandmother was a river nymph who seduced a high fae male from the autumn court.
And do you have the rest of it about her mother?
My mother was unwanted by either of their people. She could not dwell in the rivers of the spring court, but was too untamed to endure the confinement of the forest of autumn. So she was given in her childhood to the temple of Sangrava, where she was raised. She partook in the great rite when she was of age, and my sister and I mean, were the result of a sacred union with a male stranger. She never found out who he was, for the magic chose him that night, and no one ever showed up to ask about twin girls. We were raised in a temple as well. I never left the grounds until I came here.
What does Gwen look like?
She has red hair.
Red hair?
Coppery hair. So that could just be her grandparents, you know, like remainder of the autumn court. And she has, I think, bright blue eyes, I believe.
Yeah. Like
and he
big
has green eyes.
Right? Yeah.
Oh my god. So you think that during the Great Rite, she was sent over to the Spring Court for Karanaim or whatever it's called?
Yeah,
maybe.
Calamine?
Whatever it's called.
Yeah.
And interesting.
Because I think the key thing there is like the magic chose him. And that's usually what happens to the High Lords, right? On that Great Rite night. The magic chooses the High Lord, and like they have to have like crazy bouts of orgies and sex. And
yeah.
That's what makes me think it's Tamlin, unless it was Lucian. But like, I only think Lucian partook in the rite that one time when he was forced to sleep with Ianthe. I don't think Lucian partook in it before that. I don't know. I just thought it was really interesting to mention, and I'm curious to see if that plays into anything, because then that could be Tamlin's like redemption-ish story in a sense. Now he might have a daughter to live for. I don't know.
That is an interesting theory for sure. All right. Well, thanks for listening to the second part of our Quarter Silver Flames discussion. Thank you if you've made it this far. I hope it was somewhat entertaining. I hope that we had some interesting conversations for you, and if you have anything that you would want to tell us, anything you want to add, anything you want to discuss with us, please reach out online. You can find us on Twitter at the RTM Pod and on Instagram at Romancing the Monsters Podcast. You can also email us if you want to at romancingthemonsterspodcast@gmail.com. And if you want to find me online, I'm on both Twitter and Instagram at Foes and Lovers.
And you can find me on both Twitter and Instagram at ButThisBook.
And you can find me, Seff, on both Instagram and Twitter at Pros with Woes.
And that's it.
Thanks.
We
Bye.
will see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Lord, I'm dead.